Hi, and welcome to Augusta Outdoors. A lot of people may not realize it, but we have some fishing history right here in Columbia County in Martinez, Georgia. We're going to spend a little time today with a gentleman named Clay Ghann, and he is the owner of Ghann's Cricket Farm. And if you're not familiar with this business, it's not only one of the oldest businesses in Columbia County, but it has a particular bit of fascinating history to it. We're going to hear a little bit about how cricket farming is done, and Clay is going to tell us about his dad, Aubrey Ghann, and how this company was founded back in 1952. There's a lot of different lines of business that somebody can spend their life involved in. How did you guys and your family get involved in the cricket industry?
Well, it was my dad started it in 1952. He was a welder, and he worked for, I believe it was Augusta Iron Works. They were working on Clarks Hill Dam, and it's Clarks Hill. It ain't Lake Thurman.
And he helped build
It'll
it?
always be Clarks Hill.
Okay.
He helped build the dam, and when that project was complete, they were going to send him to Tennessee or somewhere on the next job. My mother was pregnant with my older sister. He didn't want to move. He figured there's going to be a lake here. He was an avid fisherman. He wanted to do something for himself, so he took a shot, quit his job, bought this little piece of land here, put up one small building, and started growing crickets.
And Clay, every time I go to a bait store and I see crickets, I always wonder if these are Ghann's crickets or somebody else's crickets. But you were telling me a little bit about the cricket industry and how it's changed over the last decade or so, that not all crickets are grown for fish bait anymore.
Yeah, it was all fish bait when Daddy started back in the early 50s, and I guess even through into the late 70s, early 80s. And then we discovered that crickets also were a great live food for certain animals, reptiles and amphibians. And that industry has grown tremendously over the last 10 to 20 years. People keeping these fancy lizards and frogs, and that market, I believe, has actually overtaken the fish bait. All the crickets we sell now go to the pet industry.
Wow. And here in the South, I always think of crickets as being the bait for bluegill, if that's where you're going, but I guess it's not that way all over the country.
Right. Other parts of the country, crickets weren't used for bait as widely as they are here. When my dad got this business going, he actually made a trip up through as far as Michigan, made a big circle, and had to introduce people at bait shops to crickets and what they were. So I feel like I could say he was sort of like Aubrey cricket seed, kind of. He seeded
I was
the
about to
cricket
say, he
industry
sounds like the
bit.
Johnny Appleseed of crickets.
Yeah.
He traveled around marketing crickets as a bait because
Yep.
he grew them.
Yep.
And any idea how he decided to grow crickets as opposed to worms or raising minnows? It was just something new?
He did crickets and worms for a little while.
Okay.
He did worms too for a few years when he first got started, and he just seemed to have a knack for the crickets. He did better at it, and within I think the first 5 or 6 years, he gave up on the worms and focused completely on crickets. And we've been very blessed over the years. We've grown from a small operation of having 2 or 3 employees when Daddy started to, at our peak a few years ago, we had upwards of 40 people.
Okay. And Clay, this room in here, you can hear a little bit of chirping going on, but I'm guessing this is the maternity ward. Is that what's going on here?
I guess you could call it that. This is one of our 3 production rooms. This is the largest of the 3. This room, with our current allocation model, and we can manipulate that, but currently we're producing around 2.5 to 3 million crickets a week in this one room.
Every week?
Every week.
And they're produced from eggs or?
Right, the cricket lays an egg, they incubate for 10 days,
Okay.
Eggs hatch, and then it takes about 4 weeks, roughly 4.5, to get to an adult cricket.
Okay.
But we sell them at all sizes along the way. We sell 8 different sizes to the pet industry to feed various size reptiles.
Okay. Clay, this looks like the last stop before the crickets leave Martinez.
It is the shipping room. This is where all the paperwork and the crickets and all come together, and Keith Arrington, our shipping manager, and his crew get everything bundled up, strapped up, and ready for the FedEx truck to come grab them and take them off to parts unknown. We typically get to anywhere we're shipping. We like to get there overnight. Mm-hmm. We do some 2-day business, and they can survive okay for 48 hours without food or water. But when the customer receives them, they got to get something in there to eat right away.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very, very much. That was a great tour. I appreciate you letting us come out.
You bet. Thank you for coming.